Hello there, I am Shawn Briggs, and today I am looking at the Tokina 11 to 20mm T2.9 Cine Zoom Lens.
Like 25, 22.
This Cine lens comes in 3 available mounts. You can get it in EF for your Canon shooters, you can get it in PL for your more cinema style shooters, or you can get it in micro four thirds mount, which I have it on my Lumix GH5 right now without any adapters on the body of this camera. This is literally attached straight on, as you can see here. A very comfortable fit. It really does make your GH5 look a lot bigger. I mean, this is a chunky lens. Personally, I love wide angle lenses. I think there is a really nice stylistic quality to them. I feel like in a lot of short films and in a lot of documentaries, you know, the more telephoto punched in looks are more heavily used. And that's not to say that they're going out of fashion, in my opinion, at all. Like, no, absolutely not. You need the variety to break up your video and to make more of a story and to see different details, different types of details, depending on what focal length that you are using. But what I love about this lens in particular is that it gives you wide angle on a very extreme level, as well as a little bit more on the subtler level. And if you're using a micro four thirds like I am here, then it's basically a 22mm to 40mm lens, which means that when you are punched in at 40mm, you kind of compare that to a 35mm, which is kind of like the focal length of what the human eye naturally sees. So if you did want that kind of 35mm look, then that is easily accomplished with this sort of run and gun style. And then when you want to go a little bit wider for a little bit more perspective on the area, then you just bring it on down to 11mm, and then you have that, as you see, I just did it like at a moment's notice. But you see, that's what I like about this 11 to 20, is that if you know you're wanting a wide angle shot, but you're not sure how wide or how punched in you would like, maybe the picture that you have in your head is not quite what the reality has given to you. So maybe if you do need to just zoom in that little bit extra, or if you feel like you can just bring it out a little bit extra, then you do have that flexibility to just be creative on the fly without worry of losing any time over constantly switching between prime lenses. You've got a 9-bladed aperture in this one. It's all manual as well. Like, the whole thing about this lens is very manual. You've got 3 dials on the body of this lens. So you've got obviously your focus ring, you've got your zoom ring, and then you've got your aperture ring, and they've all got teeth around them already. So if you've got any, say, like follow focusers or any kind of like gear attachments that you'd like to you know, deck this thing out with, just to make it a little bit more accessible for each of those different, like, you know, zoom, focus, aperture, then you can do that. All in all, like myself, I would probably only really focus on getting, say, like a follow focus for a lens like this, really. Not just because that's what I would use the most, because that is what I'd be using the most out of any of them, for all those like lovely pull focuses and all that kind of stuff, but also because the throw on this lens is really quite wide, as you can see here. I don't know if you heard my shoulder pop as I was doing that. If I was pulling focus to, say, the background to the foreground or vice versa, then I was challenged and did have to position myself quite specifically in order to get those shots comfortably. And, you know, with it being handheld as well, like if you're really wrapping yourself around, you know, you could disturb the composition of your camera maybe at the same time. So I actually found myself using a tripod a lot more because of that, I think, as well. All of these like dials, by the way, are very smooth, very nice. There's a nice level of resistance so that as you operate each of them, you get a nice bit of easing as you are transitioning from one focal point to the other, or one zoom point to the other, or even one aperture point to the other. Coming over to the zoom ring on this lens, because it's a cinema lens and because it's a T2.9 as opposed to an f2.8 or 2.9, I've never seen an f2.9, but it's parfocal. If you're not familiar with the term parfocal, if you think about when you're zooming and you have a focal point and you've got a shallow depth of field, what you would often find in, say, like photography lenses, which are an F-numbered lens, when you zoom in and out, your focus point will shift which can be quite irritating. This is something that can be fixed if you've got a really reliable, say like autofocus system in the camera that works with the lens. But if you're going full manual and you're zooming in and out on just your average like f-numbered like photography lens, then more often than not you will lose focus as you are zooming in and out on a particular point. Now with the Tokina, that does not happen. As you are zooming in and out, it will retain focus and keep them sharp for you, which is really useful for if you say want to do any stylized zooming shots, or you want to see a compressing of the background during a shot or anything, or if you just simply want to get closer to the action at a moment's notice because you're shooting a documentary and you don't, you know, if it goes out of focus, that might be bad. You'd have to adjust really quickly, and with this throw being so wide, that would kind of be unworkable. The drawbacks of this lens, it does have markings on the body actually, where the 11 all the way up to I'd say 15mm is in white, and then from 16mm to 20 it has orange markings next to it. What this means is that with certain APS-C or Super 35 cameras, you do get a little bit of vignetting on the wider end of this lens's zoom range. Because I'm on a micro four thirds camera body right here, I don't experience that at all because it's punched in. So I can use the full kind of zoom range and it doesn't interfere. There's no vignetting at all when I'm shooting with this loadout right here, which is really handy. But I have heard that maybe if you're shooting with a Canon C70 or a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, or if you're shooting on an APS-C mirrorless camera, you may experience some vignetting when you go onto the wider angle of this lens's zoom range. I used it for a short film shoot with some friends a few weeks ago. I also used it for the shooting of our DJI Mavic Air 2S video. So if you have not seen that already, then there is a link up here for you guys to click on so you can go check that out, because you know, drone stuff is really cool. And I shot almost the entirety of that video with this setup exactly, so you can get a good feel for what this lens dishes out when paired with a Lumix GH5. Now, I hope this video was useful to you guys. If you are interested in looking up the Tokina 11 to 20mm T2.9, then there is a link in the description to our store page where we've got loads of information for you on there. But of course, if you want to learn a little bit more about it, you can always give us a call or send us an email, speak to our expert like Pro Video team about it, or you can always leave a comment down below and I will personally get back to you with all the information that you could need. And don't forget to like and subscribe and ring that little notification bell so you don't miss out on anything. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.